right, perfect. All right, so hopefully everybody is doing well out there. This is a pretty relaxed question and answer session. You all are muted, so if you have a question and you know how to use GoToWebinar, your panel is on the right side of your screen. Go ahead and type in your question. It will flag me as I go for every question that you have. I like to kind of go through the webinar session, each slide, and go over a few of the key pointers, some of the questions that have come up since I posted the video recording early January. Hopefully you all have had time to go through that. And then I like to take the questions as we go, and then I can go ahead and pick up the flags as you guys have questions. And so if you have a very project-specific question, it is difficult to answer those questions on the webinar, so I will do my best. However, a lot of times we have to schedule a time for us to have that discussion. So I'm going to go ahead and close my panel. It will flag me if you have a question, and we'll get going. Just so you all know, I have a little bit of a raspy throat and may have to cough. I've been out sick for a few days, so I'm doing my best to get us through this, but it may be a little bit of a rushed webinar session, so I apologize if you have to hear me cough. So thank you for being patient. All right, here we go. Okay, so once again, thank you all for joining us. You are here for, just to be clear, we're here for the FY16 Oregon Specialty Crop Block Grant Program question and answer session. Again, those of you who are joining us hopefully have seen the video session that was pre-recorded on our website. I am Shannon Brubaker, your program manager for the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program at the Oregon Department of Agriculture. And here I have given you my contact information in case you don't already have that, and as well our website. And today we are going to go over some of the specifics about our program requirements, some changes to the Oregon program and why we made those changes. And then in addition, I'll go over our timeline, a little more detail as to what you can expect as you advance forward. And then a glance into the changes we've made in our concept proposal and why those were made. And then, of course, the question and answer time for you all as we go forward. Just going to double check to be sure there's nobody who is having any troubles hearing me. Okay, looks like we're all okay. All right. Okay, once again, I want to remind you that to qualify for this program, specialty crops are defined as commonly recognized fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, dried fruits, and nursery crops, including floriculture and horticulture products. To be considered for the program, specialty crops have to be intensively cultivated. They cannot be foraged like truffles for truffle oil and juniper berries for gin. These crops must be used by people for food, for medicinal purposes, for aesthetic gratification such as grass seed, nursery crops, Christmas trees, and floriculture crops. And for our processed products, they have to be greater than 50% of specialty crop by weight, excluding water, which means that wine and cider is considered for specialty crop, but beer is not. However, we do consider hops within our beer to be a specialty crop. Additionally, when considering projects that contain recipes, you must also consider the recipe to be 51% of a specialty crop. I'm going to go ahead and check for questions. I don't see any. This program is administered or is funded through the Farm Bill, and it's administered through USDA and granted through block grants to each state Department of Agriculture. And we are at the initial phase of the process for an open competitive process. And if you want to learn more about the overall grant program, you can do so at the USDA website. I've given you the link here. And they have lots of information there about other state programs, project ideas as well, and then information about how our states go through the process of applying for funding which ultimately ends up being what we call our state plan, which is the State Department of Agriculture application. You'll hear me talk about the state plan often through this process if you make it through the concept proposal. Our specialty crop program is making some changes this year. If you've applied before or you've gone through the process, we have made some changes to this year's program, which allow for increased amount of cap on the overall asking amount. You'll see here in the past we have been a baseline of $25,000 and a cap of $100,000. We've increased that to $175,000. We've gone through a very detailed amount of time with our advisory committee, director of the Department of Agriculture, talking about whether or not we should increase that cap. We've had some increased amount of funding come down through the Farm Bill and decided we would go ahead and do that with the hope that we might see some additional types of projects come through. Also, we have increased the amount of time for you to complete your project from 2 years to 2.5 years to complete your project. And then some major changes to the program was our performance measures, and this was handed down by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I'm going to go through a couple of those things as we go through this webinar, but I wanted to kind of highlight those changes. All right, as discussed earlier, the eligibility for this program, again, specialty crops are defined as fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, dried fruits, horticulture, nursery crops, and including floriculture. Funding must go towards solely enhancing the competitiveness of Oregon specialty crops. So you want to see to it that it's a project that goes towards increased sales of or consumption of marketing of Oregon's specialty crops. So those are the fruits and vegetables and so on. Grant funds will not be awarded for projects that solely provide a profit to a single organization, institution, or individual. We often have questions about that. So this goes towards the overall competitiveness of specialty crops in Oregon, not a single organization or institution. So we need to be sure that it advances the overall specialty crops in Oregon. Eligibility entities include nonprofits, for-profits, government entities, tribal governments, colleges, universities. We've had federal entities apply for funding. So you'll want to take a look at that. Still don't see any questions as we are going through this. Double check to be sure it's working. Yep. All of our policies and requirements are governed under the 2 CFR 200, known as the Super Circular, the Uniform Administrative Requirements Cost Principles. They were updated in December of 2014. Our cost principles are under the subpart E. And depending on what type of entity you are, whether you're a university or a not-for-profit or a tribal entity, you have different types of guidelines, maybe for procurement or something like that. So you'll want to become familiar with that. If you make it through to full proposal, we give you a little more guidance as to which specific CFR you actually need to look toward for your actual cost principle. But right now, we just give you the guiding principle that you should fall under, which is the 2 CFR 200 subpart E. And I'll give you some more information as we advance through this webinar on some specifics. I wanted to highlight a few of the restrictions and limitations. These 3 are some of the ones we get the most questions about, which is kind of how our specific specialty crop funding is used. We have to be very specific toward the types of campaigns we do, such as we can't do general campaigns like XYZ grown. We have to do like XYZ grown watermelon, or like Oregon grown watermelon, or Oregon grown cherries, or something like that as a very specific campaign. Or if it's like a regionally grown campaign or something like that, that is an okay promotional campaign. Same is true for increasing producer sales of fruits and vegetables versus a generic campaign. I like to think about the Celebrate Oregon Agriculture campaign Celebrate Oregon Agriculture is a very generic campaign unless we're very specific about our specialty crops, which generally speaking, we have been Celebrate Oregon Agriculture, fruits and vegetables, unless we open the campaign towards another type of commodity. The third bullet there describes the use of the funds towards trade shows, meeting rooms, displays, demonstrations, and exhibits. This speaks towards organizations that are generic organizations like Oregon Department of Agriculture. Our job is to enhance the competitiveness or enhance all of Oregon agriculture versus an organization like maybe the Sweet Cherry Commission that their sole duty is to enhance cherries. And so all the work that they do, no matter what type of trade show they go to, would be to work on cherries. So the idea there would be if you're going to a trade show, say Food X in Japan or something like that, and your Sweet Cherry Commission, let's just say, you're going to Food X, which is a general food type of trade show, you're going there to promote cherries, that's okay. If you're Oregon Department of Agriculture, you would have to be very careful as to what you're doing and what you're promoting when you're going there, who you're taking with you, what kinds of companies you're taking with you. So it's a very specific type of campaign. All right, so some other restrictions, such as equipment, capital expenditures, and so forth. Our equipment use, very restricted to special purpose equipment, maybe something to do in the lab or something like that. One of the things, just hold your question there for 1 second. I'm going to check in 1 second. One of the things that we get a lot of questions about on equipment is purchases or putting up greenhouses. And that's a very common question. Greenhouses are very challenging. We, generally speaking, don't allow for that. So I'd like to, if you have questions about equipment, always call us and we can discuss that. And before I move on to these other bullets, I'm going to check these questions here that are coming in. I think I am. It's like we just have a hand up. John, do you have a question? Your hand is up. John McCauley, your hand is up. So if you have a question, you want to type it into the question box that's down below so that I can see it. I'm going to wait for him to go ahead and do that. Okay, so if you guys have questions, remember that we have you muted. So questions need to be typed into the boxes down below so that I can answer them. There we go. Okay. All right, so John's question, what about development of prototype harvest equipment? Okay, John, we've had that question a few times come up, and we would need to talk about what type of equipment that is, because we do have some a priority on that and how that actually enhances specialty crops, and I can actually talk about that as we get a little bit closer to the priority. What the question about that would be how much research goes into that and how long the duration of that project would be. So why don't we talk about that one a little bit more offline, because we would need to know a little more about your project on that. Because that can be a little bit, it's not really an equipment purchase, it's more about a development of a project. So that's a little different than purchasing equipment. Let's see, Megan. Would scholarships for participation in Oregon School Garden Summit be an allowable expense? Sort of, it'd be like tuition, and we can consider that depending on how it fits within the project proposal. And the modifications to an existing greenhouse specific to the specialty crop. So, Mike, I'm guessing you mean like making it a little more, I'd have to know exactly what you mean, probably more modifications. Probably depends on what you mean. We've had projects do that. Your equipment for the crop specific. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've done that before. Yes, we can consider that depending on what the project is. So Mike's question was purchases based on what the project is that would allow for the success of the project within a greenhouse. And so, yes, we have done that before with our project funding, allowing for adaptability for the success of a project, such as if it maybe, let's say it's purchases of a tank or the right lighting or something like that. We've done that before, so yes. We have a general question. Have there been specialty crop block grant program grants for Oregon-grown olives and extra virgin olive oil in previous years, or would an application about Oregon olives EVOO be acceptable? We have not had that before, and yes, we would consider something like that. Okay, so I think that's all we have right now. All right, so I'm going to move on to some of these other items on the bulleted list here to see, and then keep asking questions, folks. Thank you. Those are fantastic questions. Travel costs and meals, etc., are allowable. So travel costs need to be very specific to where you're going and the purpose for why you're traveling there. Foreign travel is an allowable expense. And meals, etc., as well. So meals would include like a per diem cost or something like that for overnight stay. Meals as it pertains to feeding attendees at a meeting or something like that get very specific. So we would need to know, why would you need to do this? Are you having somebody speak during the lunch hour? Is it too far away from other food sources? Or there's very specific reasons for why you need to have meals. And then, of course, there's prior consent needs to be given to these types of travel as well. Rental costs for buildings and equipment are allowed only when directly associated with the project. So, like if you have a rental for an office space or something like that, it needs to be very directly associated with the project. And I'm going to cough. Hang on one second here. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. And so you have to be very specific, and you have to have the tracking and ability to track the space that you are renting. So same with the equipment. Equipment like tractors and those types of things for rental costs and stuff like that. Oftentimes you rent it and it's very specific to working ground, or it's very specific to doing the project at hand. So sometimes that's pretty easy. Vans, renting cars or something like that. So very specific to the project need. So happy to answer questions about that. Grant funds cannot be used for coupon incentives or redemptions or price discounts. So when you're thinking about, I like to use the Veggie RX project, where coupons are given as an opportunity to go purchase at a discounted rate at maybe a farmer's market. And then once the coupon is given, it uses and blocks out a section of your project funding, maybe $2,000 towards coupon incentives. Then those coupons are given to, in the Veggie RX case, a patient. And then once that money is blocked out for that, then we don't know for certain that that patient ever goes and redeems it. And so those coupon incentive and redemption programs are no longer eligible for special crop block grant program funding. Political and lobbying activities are not an eligible expense, and indirect and overhead costs are not allowable. And then I want to remind everybody that the outcomes of this are part of the public domain, and your job is also to ensure that anybody who is a cooperator in this, like your contractors and so forth, know this as well. Okay, so checking for questions on this. Looks like we're okay right now. Go to the next slide. Okay, to talk about the Oregon program and the process we go through. Historically speaking, we have received as a block grant $1.5 to $1.9 million. We have received notice from the USDA that we will receive about $1.6 million after our percentage is taken off the top for administering the program, which is the cost to run the program here at the Department of Agriculture. About 1.6 of that is open competitive. That's the funding that you all are working toward right now. Again, $25,000 is your base and $175,000 is your cap for this funding. We already talked about the eligibility. Of course, the eligibility is namely that your actual project meets the number one, which is the fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, etc. And then secondarily, that you are an eligible entity and that you are working toward the overall enhancement of specialty crops in the state of Oregon. We do recommend that you have matching. It is not a requirement of the program. However, we recommend that you have matching funds towards this. It shows that there's sustainable efforts towards your project. It also shows that there's support from the industry or support from the partners in the project. So if you would have matching, that would help you in your scoring process and your prioritizing overall. You have 2.5 years to complete your project from the time that we receive word that the project is funded. Generally speaking, we receive that notice about October. And then you are the process. So this is a two-phase process. You're at the beginning of the phase. This is the concept proposal phase. Then there's a full proposal phase, and then we have what's called the final phase of it, which is the state plan phase, and that's the Department of Agriculture application. For those of you who actually get awarded, you're required to submit biennial and final reporting. So you submit twice yearly and then also a final report. And then we do have an advisory committee. It's made up of 14 members that are experts within the state of Oregon in industry, could be marketing, could be transportation, certification, you name it, that we've got those types of members. They're growers, they're experts basically made up here. And then we also have 4 members from the Department of Agriculture that are technical experts. We have funding priorities. There's 9 of them, and they were established in 2012 and updated in fall of 2014. Before I click to the funding priorities, I want to double check to be sure we have no questions on our actual program. Looks like we have a cost-specific question. The cost of travel to Oregon by foreign expert, grad student from Italy who specializes in, and so would a cost of travel to Oregon by foreign expert and cost of stay in Oregon be allowable? So yes, we have done this before. In fact, we've done this often. It needs to be a very specific reason why that person needs to come to Oregon. So this is paying for experts to come and perhaps they need to come and speak, or they need to come and do evaluations, or they're a part of a specific project for a specific reason. We have done this type of funding before. There's usually a very specific reason to do this. We've had culinary experts come and do trainings. We've had them come for feast. There's very specific reasons why these experts have come, and they fit the need of the project. So yes, that is a qualifier as long as it fits the need of the project. Hope that helps. Any more questions before I move to the next one? Doesn't look like it. All right. So I spoke a little bit on the training webinar about our priorities. I'm not going to go into the full in-depth priority for each one of these bullets, but just wanted to highlight the 9 priorities that we have. I think there's 9 of them. Market development and access, and within market development and access, there's international focus and local, farm direct, regional, and domestic. Underneath of that, there is lots of different ways you can focus those priorities. Certification programs, this would be organic certification and global gap certification, those types of programs. Food safety, compliance, and traceability. So this is important when it comes to the impending FSMA trainings and so forth that are coming. Improving efficiency of distribution systems, addressing pest and disease management issues, training and equipping next generation farmers, on-farm labor needs and workforce trainings, productivity enhancement, innovation, and value-added products. I think that was one of the questions we had earlier about enhancing or creating new equipment. That is one of the ones that would fit in that area, very specific to specialty crop. Would a new piece of manufactured equipment help to enhance the productivity of specialty crops? Does it make it more timely, more efficient, reduce labor, reduce cost, save on fruit, less bruising, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of different ways it would fit in that. And then the agriculture and food-related priorities identified by Oregon Solutions Network Regional Solutions Centers. This is our rural economic development work that's going on throughout the state. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and check to see if there's any questions. It looks like there is before I move on to the timeline. Where can we find ag and food-related priorities identified Oregon Solutions Network Regional Solution Centers? Can you post a list or a link to ODA Special Crop website? I have had troubles finding them on the web. So have I. So, so the question being asked is, hang on one second, I'm gonna cough. Wow, you guys, I'm really sorry about this irritating cough. So the question is, and I'm going to go back up here on my slide, I think. Here. The bottom bullet here is the priorities identified by Oregon Solutions Network Regional Solution Centers. The question is, can we post a link to help you guys find what are the priorities, and can we post a link to that? We did used to have a link for the map showing where the regions are and what is the priorities identified by the Governor's Regional Solutions teams. Goodness, time out. Oh. So the link was broke during the changeover of governors. And since then, we haven't been able to successfully find the right link to put up. And so we're working on trying to do that. I will make a note and see if I can actually send out. I have all of your email addresses. I will at minimum send it to you folks. So that you all have it, but I will also continue to look for that. I just haven't had an opportunity to. So thank you, Megan, for that question. So just to note, as we're talking about that, if you decide to put in a project that is one of what you believe to be a regional solutions priority, that project has to come to us with a letter that is signed by the regional solutions team, indicating that is a priority for them. So basically, it draws attention to them, lets them know this is a priority for the region. It's a rural economic solution or rural economic priority, and then they help support that. So we have funded some projects that are part of that effort. So, but I will work on that. Thank you, Megan, for highlighting that. Okay. I think I've got all the questions so far. Oh, this cough. Okay, so just to go over the deadlines real quick to highlight those, and then we'll hopefully get into the concept proposal if I can continue to do this. Goodness. Okay, so your concept proposal deadline, as a reminder, is noon on February 23rd. And then if you get invited through that process, so the February 23rd deadline, then we go through a series of scoring and review. And then you should be notified. We are thinking there's potential we may have to change this deadline here, the April 6th deadline, just to note for you folks. One second, Megan, I'll get to your question. The April 6th deadline might have to change. We have some stuff going on here at the department that might push us out a week or two. So just take note of that. And so it could be 1 week delayed on that April 6th. So just to note. And then, if that is the case, then your deadline, the May 10th deadline, will push out as well, just so you know. But right now, I'm just going to say April 6th and May 10th, and then June 3rd, partner selected by the Department of Agriculture. That may push out as well. Our director has some stuff going on that we can't control. And then July 1st, that deadline will not change for me, sadly. And then neither will the September-October announcement and October-November funding availability to you folks. I'm going to go over to this question. Yes, so Megan is asking if we can also give you guys notification information on who is the contacts for the Oregon Regional Solutions Team. Yes, so my understanding is there's a map that gives you guys regional coordinators for the solutions teams. And yes, so I can give that to you. My goal is to be able to give you the map. So the website used to have a map and you clicked on the link and it took you to all their coordinating information. So thank you. Yes, I will give that to you. Okay. Oops. So I'm going to talk a little bit about your concept proposal, then we'll go through it. I think the biggest question that you all might have is a little bit about the measurable outcome changes. So we'll get to that and then go from there. So concept proposal application requirements is you must use the concept proposal provided by the Department of Agriculture. It's in Microsoft Word format. We have increased the allowable amount of pages from 6 to 8 pages. So you are now allowed 8 pages plus your cover page. That you're allowed support and partner letters. Those are now limited to 5 letters. So pick your best letters. Yes, you're allowed to put in multiple proposals. That's okay to do. Keep in mind that if you put in multiple proposals, you may be asked to submit your highest priority for your organization. So if you have 2 wine proposals, then be sure you know which one you may want to submit as your highest priority, if they both score above the line, so to speak. You'll submit through our FTP on our website, which I'll show you all of this on our website real quickly as well. And this is our website link. What is our concept proposal required sections? It's our cover page, which is a separate page. I'll show it to you. The project summary, project purpose and industry impact, performance measures, a work plan, a budget grid, budget narrative, which is brief at this stage, and then the matching funds section. Okay, real quick, before I go through this, check for questions. We are good. Okay, real quick, I wanted to just show you our score sheet. This is also in the guidance document that you can download off our webpage. And I want to just kind of highlight to you the key section areas that we score off of. Shouldn't say we, but our advisory committee scores off of. Our advisory committee scores off of whether or not your project meets the specialty crop rock grant program priorities. So does it fit into them? Is it outlined clearly within your concept proposal? And then how does the project show industry involvement, overall impact towards the industry? collaboration and cooperation of the industry, and active management by specialty crop producers, organization, or industry groups. Is the project new or innovative? So that's important. We not only is your project compared at the state level here by me when it comes in, these get looked at a national scale, whether or not they're duplicative of other work being done. Budget and matching funds is scored as well. Is this feasible? Can it be done for the amount of money that you're asking for? And then the overall quality of the project proposal. You guys, I am so sorry. Doing my best here. All right. So again, contact information. So I am going to check the questions, and then I'm going to open up my concept proposal. All right, so first of all, all right, so we have a few different things I wanted to share with you. First of all is where you can access the information that's necessary to submit your grant. So if you haven't ever been on our website, and I know this is like tiny, tiny and hard to see for you guys, but from our homepage, under marketing and promotion, there's a link to Special Crop Block Grant Program. So you'll click there, and that brings up, I like to say, my page. Oops, I have a question. So the question is about priorities and whether or not the priorities are ranked in any fashion. So are all 8 priorities of equal importance? So our priorities are not ranked of any level of importance higher than the other. So they're all just priorities that are highlighted by overall industry. So they're just, these are the areas that this program should prioritize. So I will actually just skip a section here and go to, on the left-hand column here, you can actually click on our funding priorities. And they are not ranked in any level of importance. They're just, these are all the highest priorities for this program to focus on in Oregon. So not ranked by, this is more important than food safety, because clearly food safety is very important. So no, they're not ranked by any level of hierarchy. Very good question, and I should have pointed that out. Thank you for that question. Okay, so from our home page, you can find a lot of different things. Number one, eligibility, and then at the very bottom of the page, because now our website is very mobile friendly, everything is at the bottom of the page, so you can click to get to, like, you could register in our concept proposal training. It's like a tiny little level of torture going on in here. Okay. And then at the very bottom is our resources. So you'll get our guidelines document, past summaries of projects, and then the concept proposal form. That's where you're going to download from right here. And then you can also get to the website for USDA as well. So, and then also on the left-hand side, I know we just clicked to the priorities, but you can also download guidelines one more time. And then I wanted to point out the application process is here. And that will help you to understand, again, deadlines are reiterated. And then once we invite people, the deadlines will be there and posted. And then this changes to submission requirements for the invitation process, right? So right now, oh, they have the wrong date. So this should say February 23rd, not 3rd. Sorry about that. I better fix that. So then you'll click here when you're ready to submit, and it'll take you to FTP. But again, they also have the resources that are required for this section, concept proposal and guidelines. So that's just kind of how to navigate our webpage. But I wanted to just real quick, like, go through, I say real quick all the time. Program guidelines is very helpful for you. This is the preliminary guidelines. answering questions, acceptable projects. A lot of what I just went through with you guys are going to be right here. Matching and help you to define cash match is a common question. What's cash match versus in-kind match? And then, indirect. So what is an indirect cost? So a lot of that will be there. And then the priorities. Remember we talked about priorities have a little more definition. That's there as well. And then our dates are here. And now, because I make this guidance document really early, the dates here sometimes change. Printed document changes as soon as you print it. Of course, it's just like driving a car off a lot. All right. So that's that. Okay. I'm not sure if you guys can see this very well. This is where I'm almost certain you'll have the vast majority of your questions. Okay, so concept proposal. This area here, all the way through to here, is the area that we say, instructions, please remove. But I wanted to quickly say, reiterating, cover page, 8-page proposal must be submitted in Microsoft Word, will not be accepted in any other format. If I receive it in any other format, I give you the one opportunity to resubmit, of course. And then, again, due February 23rd at 12 p.m. by noon. Your letters of support limited to 5. So keep that in mind, 5 or less. And they are not included in your 8-page limitation. There's your submission link. It's a hot link as well. Please remember when submitting your documents to use your name, concept proposal, and then you can use, whatever. Just be consistent with your naming convention. That just is helpful when you're uploading. And then, again, here's more information here. Okay, this begins your cover page. So we're not asking you to send us a cover page. We're asking you to use this as your cover page. I have a support letter. Sorry. That's a very good question. So the question was about support letters. Do support letters need to be in the same format as a proposal? And so we say here that our preferred way to receive support letters is in a PDF format. And ideally, if you can package all your support letters in one PDF, that would be the ideal way to receive them. If not, then just as individual PDFs is fine as well. So thank you for that question. Okay. All right, so here begins your cover page. And so most of this is pretty basic information. You must have your organization, name, address, phone number, so forth. You have your grant request, your cash match, your in-kind match, and your project total. Please remember your grant request is just for Specialty Crop Block Grant Program funding from us. And then your cash match and your in-kind match. Project total is where you're going to add them all up. If you can, so these are not check boxes, but you can remove this and hit an X here. And then if you can, list as many of the fruits that you plan to have involved, if it's cherries, grape, blueberries, etc. If not, you can just say, check the fruits, but we actually do like to have a list of what kinds of products we're impacting here. So try and do that. I know it's difficult with nursery products and so forth, but try and do that. Okay. So we like to have everybody review the funding priorities that we have listed within the guidelines document. Before you actually check these, because you should have one main priority, unless you're checking this box. So It's getting more difficult, guys. Sorry. When you check the final box, this one needs to have another priority, because this just shows that they're focusing, that this is a focus of theirs, but then it should also have another focus, like a local farm direct focus or labor focus or something like that, or it focuses on next generation training and rural economic development or something like that. So always read the priorities and then say, actually, it's more of a focus on developing certification programs, not really market international. So you should have one main focus on your priorities, not checking all of them because you think they, 3 or 4, because if it really does have more than one, great, check them. But we really want to see one highest priority that you feel your project suits. Then you have 10-word limit. And your project partners, we do say this is optional. I really should take that out because we really want to see a list of who you have involved in your project right up front, so we can have a list of that. The advisory committee looks at that and sees that as useful. Okay. This is where we've made some changes and some adjustments. We are asking for a brief summary, and as 250 words, you can actually, it's quite a lot of space, but you can be very brief, just like I've given you for this example. You guys are just hanging on there with me. Thank you so much. So this area is much similar to what we asked for as an abstract, talking a little bit about who you are, what this project's about, and the clear and concise objectives of the project. Pretty basic. Keep it at 250 words or less. Your project purpose and industry impact statement. Answer these 5 questions. What is your specific issue or problem? Why is it timely? What do you plan to accomplish? And then you can use bullets for your objectives. Who are your beneficiaries? And how is it overall going to impact Oregon agriculture? The economy? Is it going to create jobs? Is it going to retain them? Is it going to impact sales? Basic stuff like that. And that's not pretty basic, but you got to be really, really brief on that. And then who are your stakeholders? Who are the specialty crop stakeholders? Who's actually involved in it? And how do they support this and why? And so those are, it seems like a lot of questions to answer in a little bit of space, but it shouldn't take a lot to answer these questions here. So the performance measures, as you know, in the past we've had goal, baseline, target, and then we ask you for a measure of how you're going to do that. So data, so forth. Now we've changed this based on requirements from the USDA and the Office of Management and Budget. They want to have a consistent way to track all of the program's outcomes from all of the states. So as it is, we're not all tracking things the exact same way. So now everybody, all the states, departments of agriculture, we all track the same outcomes and the same outcome indicators, unless somebody miscellaneous indicator gets approved, which probably isn't going to happen very easy. And so this is what's the biggest change probably that you all have seen. And hopefully, based on this information, we can begin to have some data on some consistent measures that this project funding or program funding is going to be able to track as we advance forward for the remainder of this Farm Bill and as we move into a new Farm Bill. So the biggest one that I've been receiving questions on is outcome number 1, marketing-based projects. That's if you have a marketing program project to put in, it's sales-based. It has to be sales-based. There's no other way to measure it. So if you have a question about that specific outcome. I've already got people setting times with me to talk, so we can talk about that and discuss it. The other ones, a lot of them are based on increased yields, or they're based on, if it's a farm to school project or something like that, then it's based on increasing knowledge, or it's based on, some of them could be based on awareness or something like that. And so it kind of depends on what your project is, how you're actually going to use these indicators with it. And sometimes it can be one outcome, and I recommend it be one outcome, and you can use more than one indicator within that area. Is there any questions on this new way of measuring at all? No? That's awesome. I'm not sure that. Nope. You guys are great. All right. Well, if you have any on that, then let me know. So work plan at this point is pretty basic. As you move forward, and I showed this as an example in the training video, but sometimes people will put in there a table. So who's responsible for it, what's their project activity, and when are they responsible for it, and then what's the performance measure activity, or performance measure activity, so that we know how it ties to the performance measure. That is what's expected in your full proposal, so you can do that. But work plan at this point is basically, you could do it in quarters, you could do it by month, but we basically want to know who's responsible for what and when. I will say, our review team really likes to see this in enough detail that it seems like a reasonable approach. So use enough detail. Don't be like short and be like, we're going to do this and that's it. Be enough detail. Probably quarterly for your project at this point would be enough to show our review team what the expected work is to be done for the project. Okay, so your budget, this is what we call our budget grid. And I know that I explained earlier that we have a budget grid and a budget narrative. So this is your budget grid. So you're going to have your grant request from us, specialty crop funding, cash match, in-kind match, and then the total for all of this. My recommendation is to fill this out last, after you've worked through your actual request for funds. So here on this first page is the request for specialty crop funding. And then, oops, this normally is on the last page, but you have your matching funds here. We are asking for a pretty brief summary of, Sarah Smith, 4,000, and then you kind of, and then it's John, whatever. So at this point, we just want to know, or maybe you just want to say the titles of who the employee is. You can delete this and you can say natural resource specialist. And it's 2 at, $4,000, and then it's whatever. So at this point, we're not asking for a lot of detail, but in the full proposal, we'll want to know as much detail as you can possibly give us, so that we can ensure that our funds are being, so this will be like broke out by, point in the full proposal, 0.25 FTE. So we will know how much of the 4,000 is that. That's only a quarter of a time person. So is that too much money for that much time, and then how many hours they're going to be putting in there? So that's what we'll want to know there. Same is true for travel. At this stage, you won't need to tell us. So basically, you're telling us approximately what we're going to be doing here. So you're going to be giving us 4 trips to Portland. at whatever cost. So total cost, for instance, and for what purpose. And then, 5 trips to Medford at whatever cost. So it's basic reasons, and all of this should fit the overall components of the project, right? So that's what you're doing there. The contractual, same thing. You want to tell us the flat rate cost for somebody or the overall cost per hour for somebody and what they'll actually be doing, accomplishing, like a little paragraph. So we're not asking for detail. We're just asking for enough for us to say, yeah, this is feasible. Down a little lower, giving you a narrative of instructions on how to fill it out. So like list the organization, employee, or title of the position, that's fine. Travel, same thing. Equipment. So that'll help you a little bit with understanding it. Contractual and other. And then if you have program income anticipated, we need to know what is it, what is the purpose of it, what's the nature of it, and then how do you expect to reinvest it into the program or the project. Okay. All right, folks, I don't have much more on this to really share with you. I'll check to see if you have questions. Nothing here. I do want to share one quick glance at, it's not the full proposal yet because we're still working on it, but I wanted to show you, I know that if you took the recorded video, you got to see real quickly what the full proposal looks like, but just so you know, what it will look like and what we plan to have look like. This is last year's, but I just want to kind of share with you real quick. We put all of our instructions up front, and this is going to change because the USDA's application form changed, and so we will be changing a little bit of our requests for information as well. But wanted to share with you kind of what our tables look like for the budget, and then also here's the work plan. So remember I was saying that in the work plan section, people put project activity, who will do the work, the activity itself, and then the performance measure. So that's kind of an idea of the information you'll be asked for if you move into full proposal. This is what it looks like as an example. So we give you a lot of helpful tips as you advance forward. You're asked for detailed project commitment, so who are your stakeholders and so forth. And then in your budget narrative section, as we were talking, your personnel is more along the lines of this. So you're going to get the person's name, their title, what is their actual hourly effort towards the project, and then your actual request for that person, right? Same with their fringe benefit. Travel, same thing. Here's what the travel will look like. So I wanted to kind of share that with you so you have a level of expectation as to what you have to look forward to. And then, let's look at contractor, because some of you may have contractors. Here's what a contractor budget looks like. Here, so we ask for a narrative of their work here, and then here's what a budget looks like. So, like, what is it actually? So your budget is similar. You say, is it personnel or supplies or what is it? And then the description of the work, how much is their line item cost. So, all right. So that's the full proposal. All right. I just want to open it up real fast to any basic questions that you have. I have a question regarding outcomes. How is it possible to know or measure the effect of a program on a statewide sales? That's a good question. And that's one of the most common questions we're getting right now. And so oftentimes the sales one is the biggest challenge because you oftentimes need to work directly with a company to have a baseline sale and then have them help you with a result so that you can have at least an opportunity to measure that sale, or you work with a data company, a Euromonitor or something like that, where international sales is something that you can measure, where you could say since the beginning of a sale, we know, or beginning of a promotion, we knew this was our sales of something. If it's, I don't know what your specific project is, but say strawberries. And then we started doing a fresh market campaign for strawberries. And then at the end of the 6-month time period, we now sell this much more. So then it's an associated type of sales. That measure is likely one of the most challenging ones that we are going to face. So the my best recommendation for that specific one is that it's going to be very project specific. So I am working individually with people as we look at the projects, and then giving my best advice. That's all I can do. And I know that's not a very good answer, but it's the best I can do on that. The other question that I have is, I have some very project-specific questions. Should I call you to briefly talk about them? Yes, I am happy to entertain questions about projects or point you towards an expert that we have here at the department, or sometimes there is other funding sources I can help you to acquire as well. So in this particular case, or you folks here on the webinar, you can email me. You have my email address, and you can send me your information, and I can look at my calendar and see what time will be suitable, hopefully before the deadline. Additionally, I am happy to do budget reviews and give advice on the concept proposals. I generally like to see those by February 18th at noon. So if you have a concept you want me to take a look at and review for whether or not it meets the needs of the program, the requirements of the program, and you want to submit that by the 18th, I can take a look at it. I'm glad to do that. All I do is review them, look at it, and let you know whether or not you have any basic things missing. And then that way you have at least that initial look. So I can do that. But you need to submit them to me directly by the 18th, and then you'll follow up with the FTP upload by the deadline of the 23rd. Any other questions? So I'm going to speak directly to Steve. Steve, yeah, why don't we set up a time to talk about your project? Sounds like you have some more questions. Okay, so it's been a pleasure having this time with you guys, and I thank you so much for being patient with me as I have this wonderful little cold. And I look forward to seeing your projects come in, and if you have any questions, I'm always available. So thank you all.